Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 31st of May, 2024. My name is CareyHolzman, and look at that. May is just hours away from ending, and we're into June already. I can't wait for October. The summer here in Phoenix, it's getting hotter. I think 106 degrees is predicted today, and 110 by this time next week. And it'll just keep climbing. 100 and, I don't know, 15 to 19 will be pretty normal for June, July, August. So I better appreciate the nice, cool 106, I guess is what I'm saying. Welcome in. It's good to see everybody. And today we're going to do a review of the Minisforum V3. The V3 is a laptop on steroids. It's if you've seen a Microsoft Surface Pro, they're usually a pretty high-end laptop that also function as a tablet, meaning you can take the keyboard off and hold just the screen that's a touch screen and use it like a tablet. But it's got a lot of power compared to a tablet. And it's running Windows and not Android, which many tablets will run Android. They are less power hungry. And on top of that, you can even use the tablet on the Minisforum here as a third monitor. So it functions as a 3-in-1, a laptop, a tablet, and a monitor. And it sells for less money than a Microsoft Surface Pro. And the world's first AMD-based laptop, tablet. All of the all of the Microsoft models, I believe, are all Intel. And of course, Qualcomm's coming out with their, did I say Qualcomm? Yeah, it's Qualcomm, right? Their ARM processor, and for Windows. And we don't know yet if it's going to be as good as all of their PR hype suggests. They sure are hyping it up. So the hype is strong with that one. Will it match the reality once we finally get to test it and compare them? That remains to be seen. So despite what that may or may not be, this is something we have now is an alternative that is more powerful in many cases to the Surface Pro, cheaper than the Surface Pro, and priced somewhere around the range of a high-end, or I don't know if I want to say a high-end laptop, because a high-end laptop will run you $2,000 to $4,000. Low-end laptop, they start around $350. So I would put this maybe somewhere in the upper mid-range, just over $1,000. And it's probably more powerful than the desktop you're using right now to watch this video. And you think of all the functions it has. You can use it as a laptop. You can use it as a tablet. You can use it as a portable monitor. So we're going to get into that today, and we'll look at the Minisforum website to show you their promotion of it, what they're saying about it that I have left out, all the little details. We're going to get into that today. And if you have any questions regarding the Minisforum V3, be sure and ask in the chat. And if I can provide the answer, I will. Or if I can provide you to the answer, like a link where you could find it, I'll certainly do that. Barring that, I'd have to reach out to the folks at Minisforum. Sometimes you guys ask some pretty specific questions that I never see coming and don't know the answer to, but I could certainly ask on their behalf. Out of the gate, I want to say thank you to our members, and I see a bunch of renewals here. I want to give a special shout out to our friend Buster. That's Peter Laycock out in Scotland, who's been very, very helpful to us as we prepare Studio C. Studio C is a major renovation project with new walls, new ceiling, new floor, new electrical. It's coming along. We're getting I shouldn't say we. We have a friend, Tom, helping us out. He's not a part of this community, and he is doing a fantastic job at making great progress. And so far, as far as I can tell, the quality of his work is just spot on. You know, I'm one of those guys, if I want it done right, I'm going to do it myself. But every once in a while, you're lucky enough to meet somebody who you can just say, okay, that's the same as if I would have done it. Or in Tom's case, because it's dealing with drywall and flooring, about 300,000 times better than if I did it. I don't know what I'm doing with that stuff. The electrical, I can handle that. But he's a great guy. It's great to work with him, and he's making great progress. We've only been really started this project on Monday. That's when it finally started to get work done. And so it's only been, we're only on day 5 right now. And this is a major, major renovation. I hope you guys are going to like it when it's done. We're probably 6 weeks out. That would be my guess. If we can get in there any sooner, we will. So be prepared for all of this to change on a moment's notice. It'll just happen like that. In the meantime, if you notice, I've not been making as many videos as I normally would. It's not for lack of content, but rather because I'm spending a lot of time prepping for Studio C. It's a lot of work now so that we don't have to do any work later, right? I can just flip a switch, be ready to broadcast, all the lighting's in place, the audio, and that air conditioner noise should go away completely. My internet connection should be much better and solid. It's going to be such an improvement. I cannot wait. And please bear with us during this time as I'm trying to divide my time. Also, I had a couple clients call me with one of the QNAP NASs that we installed, the NVMe NAS. We used 4 of the Team Group 4 terabyte NVMe drives. And the customer says, hey, you know, the QNAP's flashing a red light. Does that mean something? I'm like, yeah, it means you need to do something right now to check that. So I logged into his computer remotely because he doesn't have me on a maintenance contract, so I don't know what's going on over there. They only react. They do nothing proactively. It's their choice. But it's anxiety-ridden and pressure, you know. How long does he have without a current backup on the NAS, which they're also not doing? If another drive fails before we get the failed drive out of there, their stuff's gone. Maybe $300 data recovery can get it back, but that's $300 per drive. There's 4 drives, plus there's a RAID fee. You know, he's in that $1,500 at least, and that's assuming they can even get it back. So this is a nice wake-up call for them. I let him know. I said, look, I want you, if you see a flashing red light on your NAS, it could mean there's just disk activity, right? It could mean you're running out of space, or it could mean a drive has failed. So let me log in remotely to your computer there so I can log into the NAS, because we have all remote access shut off for security reasons. And this is a good thing because there's always attacks going on. Right now there's not to squirrel, but there is an attack going on with Synology units currently right now. So if you want to learn more about that, you can Google it. Space Rex has a great video on that, explaining it. So it's always important we keep everything up to date and secured, because these are bot attacks, meaning it's not an actual person doing it. It's somebody wrote some code, and the code just automates the process, and it infects other people's devices. And then the code runs from these other innocent people's devices to spread itself onto your device, and then your device can spread it to other people's devices. So I shut off all remote access to the NASs. We don't need it. And the way I access them is I log in remotely to one of their computers, and then from their computer on their local area network, I sign into the NAS as if I was there at the office or home, wherever it is. And sure enough, the QNAP showed drive number 2 was missing. So I thought, okay, no problem. Let's order a new drive. We didn't have any spares. We will now, because with the new drive, another Team Group, it's called an MP34 4 terabyte. It's the first Team Group NVMe I've seen fail. It's only been in service about 6 months. So this whole thing is kind of confusing, but it is what it is. I go over there once I have the replacement drive. I drive to the client's location because I can't change the drive remotely. And I can't figure out which drive is drive 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the QNAP. They're not numbered. So I was like, wait a minute. I don't know if I mentioned this during my review or not, but how are you supposed to know which drive is the one you need to replace? Well, it turns out they are numbered, but they're numbered underneath the drives, right on the circuit board. If you go back and watch my QNAP NVMe NAS review, when I have it apart, you'll see the numbers are big and bold on the NVMe slots, on the circuit board in front of the NVMe slot. But the minute you put your NVMe drive in, or in my case, I also put in some thermal tape on the bottom, it covers the number up. There's nothing on top that says 1, 2, 3, 4. And I thought, man, I wish I would have brought my silver Sharpie because I'll fix this right now. It'll be inside of the NAS, so once you put the cover on, no one's going to see it. But at least that way, there's no question, does one start from the left, does one start from the right? And then there's 3 drives that are horizontal and 3 drives that are vertical. 1 drive is horizontal. Is the horizontal one 1 or 4, right? So anyway, I thought, well, 2's got to be the one. If there's 3 that are vertical, and let's say 4 is the last one, and I'm just guessing logically, then the middle one has to be 2. So I take the middle one out, and basically what happens is when I logged into the NAS, it showed drive 2 was just not there. It was missing. Not that it had gone bad, it just wasn't there anymore. One of the things I should have done is just rebooted the NAS. However, if the drive came back, it means it wasn't being updated with all the other 3 on the RAID array, and it would have to do a RAID rebuild anyway. And why did it disappear? Did it overheat? Is it flaky? It doesn't make any sense. So we have the new drive. I take out what I think is drive 2. It is drive 2. I put in the new one. It's not that big of a deal. I wish it was a little easier, but nonetheless, I got that done. Fired the unit back up. Took a little while to update, or to boot up rather. Finally got back into the admin screen. It wants a firmware update, and I'm like, no, not until we do the RAID rebuild. I don't know how long the firmware update's been waiting. This is just regular maintenance they're not having done. I don't know if the drive being missing was a result of something the firmware update addresses or has any relation, but it's not the time to do the firmware update. Last thing I want to do is make a bad problem worse. So I get the drive in, and then I go log into the administrative page of the NAS, and it's got a little diagram of the drives, like a little schematic showing the 3 vertical drives and 1 horizontal with numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, well, I guess, see, I had shut the NAS off to work on it. It's not like you can just slide a drive out and slide it back in. You've got to flip it upside down, remove the screws from the bottom, take off the lid. And I didn't want to do that with the power on for safety, so I shut it down. And then I saw, it actually shows you in the storage administration area of the management console on the screen, a little diagram of which drive is which. But again, and I can't stress this enough, if I had simply brought this with me, my silver Sharpie, I could have solved this problem so that there was alternative ways of knowing for sure. Anyway, started the RAID rebuild, took the bad drive back with me so I can return it to Team Group under warranty. It's a 5-year warranty. I've never had to return anything to Team Group before, so I'm not quite sure what that process will be like. But the first thing I want to do is plug it into a NAS, not a NAS, an NVMe dock, USB dock. And I plug it in and it sees it just fine. I run Crystal Disk Info on it. It says it's fine. It's got like 4 or 5 partitions on it. I guess that's what QNAP does with it. And it says there's nothing wrong with it. It shows me the number of times it's been powered on and how many hours it's been on, and everything's great. So now what do I do? Team Group isn't going to take it back unless it's broken. I don't necessarily want to put it back because if it's dying, it'll do that again, and this customer's 30 miles away, and they don't run a current backup. So what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to wipe all the partitions off of it. They're out of sync anyway with the rest of the other drives in the RAID array. I'm going to run a full 4 terabyte write test and read back to make sure that the device is working as it should, using the device I use to test memory cards and USB flash drives to see if they're real or not, called H2 Test W. It's a free download. You can just Google that. And it's going to take probably 24, 30 hours to write out 4 terabytes and read it all back. If it does all that without any errors, then I'm going to put it back in the box the new replacement drive came in, write spare on it, and give it back to them just to keep it as a spare. On top of that, they ordered another spare. So they're going to have 2 spares. They're going from 0 to 2. one of the things I've noticed doing the job that I do is a lot of people, when you're doing preventive maintenance, a lot of people aren't really sure you're doing anything. A lot of people think you're just taking their money and not really doing a thing. Nothing's happening, so why are we paying you? We never see you come into the office. I work remotely. I do your antivirus updates, your Windows updates. I clean your temp files. I do all your maintenance. And if there's an issue from the NAS, it emails me. But you got to pay me for this. I'm not having their NAS email me with updates or concerns unless I'm getting paid for it. And that's the customer's choice, right? You want to deal with this on your own? That's fine. You want to call me when there's a fire? If I'm available, I'll come out as soon as I'm available, but I'm not going to drop everything I'm doing because you're not on a retainer. And further, this was all avoidable if I was. We could have nipped this in the bud before it happened. People have become skeptical, where if you tell them you prevented a fire from happening, they're like, yeah, maybe you did. We don't care. Sounds a little like you're just kind of selling yourself. You didn't really do anything. But if you put out a fire that they're having, oh, thank you, you're the best. You've saved us. So I'm trying to figure out in my business I'm not going to change this attitude, right? If somebody is skeptical and they just don't believe that you're preventing problems from happening, let the problems happen. Let them be in crisis. Then they call me and they see me fix it. And they're like, holy cow, that was scary. We're so glad you got it fixed. This could have been terrible. And, they've tried dealing with some other techs, and those other techs made it worse, or at least this one client. So they were like so happy to have me back, and I was happy to help. So we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to talk about this again. We're going to revisit it and say, now that you've experienced this, do you want to experience this again? I'm glad you've got some spares now, but you have no current backup. The last backup I think they have is 6 months old. Are you ready for that? And if not, what's it worth to you to have me take this over again and maintain it like I used to? So that conversation will happen in the near future. And if they want to continue just being reactive, what else can I do? So I had that crisis to deal with this week. And it looks like we did get there in time. I said, when you see that flashing light, think of it as a self-destruct button. That's flashing saying self-destruct sequence has begun. The problem is there's no countdown. So we don't know if if another drive fails, we don't know if that's going to fail in 5 seconds, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 months, or 5 years. We don't know, but it should be treated as, when you see that, act accordingly. Don't put it off. Call me immediately the minute you notice it. And better yet, put me on a managed service contract so it'll email me, which could happen weeks or months before you even notice it flashing. See, we don't know how long that's been flashing. In retrospect, maybe I should have just turned the whole thing off and rebooted it and saw if the drive would redetect again. And I don't know. This is what happens when we're in crisis and panic mode. This is the process to get it done. We're not going to experiment and play. There's too much at stake here with no current backup. If we had a current backup, different story. I was afraid to turn the unit off. I was afraid, what if it doesn't boot back up again? So the only time I turned it off is when I was actually there with the replacement drive. So that was part of the logic, but it's also possible that turning it off and back on, that drive would have been detected again and everything would have been okay. I don't know. I don't like working like that. It's very stressful. So anyway, that's why there hasn't been as much content this week, and probably likely for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'll do what I can as I can, but please be patient with me as we're getting a lot of things happening. A lot of things are being done. Mara's hard at work over there at Studio C. I'm hard at work here at Studio B, breaking things down, moving over what I can. I still have customers to help, and we shipped out some mini PCs and computers this week. Less for me to move later. So it's been a busy week, and I'm so glad you guys are joining me today because, well, I've missed you. So welcome in. It's a typical Friday show here. I'm going to try to make it as normal as possible. And thank you, Ben Laird, with £2 contribution, joining us from Scotland. Thank you for that super chat, Ben. Ian Gooch with a £10 contribution says, hi, Carey from London. Hello to everyone in the chat. Cheers, Ian. Mark Baggett renews his membership. Now a member, 24 months. These memberships are what's keeping us alive. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Hello, Carey in chat. Mark says, a few days ago, I decided to subscribe to RoboForm. And so far, I'm very happy with it. I love that password generator feature. I wish I would have subscribed sooner, right? You can't miss what you never had. And once you start using RoboForm, you're going to realize, why wasn't I using this earlier? At least download the trial for free and try it, for crying out loud. They're giving all new subscribers 30% off. And it's already cheap at regular retail price, in my opinion. So download the trial, see how it works. If it's confusing or you're not quite sure what it does, search here on the channel for our interview with Simon from RoboForm demonstrating how to use the product. If you see numerous videos of that subject, look for the newest one to be the most up-to-date, because the software gets updated regularly. They've never had any sort of breach of data, and they've never caused the system crash due to an update. They're one of the oldest, if not the original password manager, and somehow they keep getting left out of password manager reviews, which angers me to no end. When I see PC World magazine or other websites reviewing password managers and they completely omit RoboForm from the running, then the readers don't know there's another option out there that they didn't test. That's kind of the OG that started it all and remains the leader of the pack as far as I'm concerned. So I feel it's grossly unjust, but it is what it is, and just want to make you aware of that. And we're certainly delighted to have RoboForm support us here and offer you guys a discount. Same is true with our friends at Acronis for backup and cloning software. Been using them for a decade and a half. And whether they were supporting us here or not, I rely on their software and have for a tool that I use in my business. You've seen me use it numerous times. If you search my YouTube channel here for the word Acronis or cloning or backing up, you'll almost universally see Acronis is being used in these videos long before they became a supporter. And again, they're offering you guys a discount of 30% off. So our thanks to RoboForm and Acronis. And while I'm talking about that stuff, if you want to buy a Windows key or an Office key, VIP CDK deals, everything's guaranteed. 30% off with our coupon code. And everything has free trials, by the way. So, you can download a free trial of Windows or Office from Microsoft. And when you want to activate it, save a lot of money, get your key at VIP CDK deals. They guarantee the keys work. RoboForm and Acronis also have free trials. Check them out. Cost you nothing. So again, thank you, Mark, for renewing your membership. Alan Lindos with $7.77 says, here's my usual fee. Hello, Carey, Mara, and chat. Is it hot enough? Apparently, nature doesn't think so. It's going to get hotter. David Graham, now a member for 9 months. Happy, happy, joy, 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 he says. Thank you, Carey, for being so kind. Well, you get what you give, right? If you're kind to me, I'm going to be kind back to you. And the opposite is true too. So, and I think that's just the way the world should be. So thank you for being a member and renewing your membership and being a part of this community. Colin Hunt contributes £5 in Super Chat, a 24-month badge next to his name. Look at how cool that is. Thank you, Colin. Garfield Rupe, now a member for 17 months, renewing his membership. Said, I am back from a broken left hip. Ooh, I bet there's a story behind that. Get well soon. There's our friend Peter Laycock, renewing membership now for 24 months. Good evening, he says. Hello, Carey and Maralina and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature here in Edinburgh, Scotland is 55 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 12 degrees Celsius. Sounds lovely. And a $10 super chat from Buster as well. I have to say the help from Buster regarding Studio C is deserving of naming Studio C after him. Does anybody have any suggestions? Nick Caffrey, a member for 5 months, says 5 months already. Isn't that funny how time flies? Once you start counting it, once you're like, looking back, it's like a blink of an eye, isn't it? He says, hello, Carey, Mara, and everyone in the chat. Hey, Nick, thank you for renewing membership. Good to see you, my friend. And another $5. Did I say it was $5? Five. Oh, that's renewing membership. And then it's a €5 contribution. He says, here's for Gatorade, the fuel of the commissioning of Studio C. He's not wrong. Chris Garrett with a $10 super chat. Carey, can the members have a members only jacket for winter? Remember those? Yes, I do remember those. They were kind of like a windbreaker. Members only. 3D Everything with a $10 super chat. He says this should cover, pun intended, a square foot of paint for Studio C. Again, thank you, Chris. Thank you, 3D Everything. We appreciate you. I'm just trying to catch up with the contributions and we'll move on. So just bear with me for a second because I want to say thank you to all these amazing folks here. Chat room is flying today. Davis Parsons with a $10 super chat says, amen to that, Carey. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Someone has to pay. All equipment will fail at some point. You either do preventive maintenance or you have that oh crap moment. Yeah, and that's the problem with the oh crap moment is you don't know how severe it is or can be until it's already done. So without any preventive maintenance, without current backups, the secret is really the current backups. If they had current backups, at the very least, if they did nothing else, even if those backups were not off-site, more than likely, there wouldn't have been as much to worry about, as much time priority. Get this done now. And they're busy doing other things. This always happens at the worst possible time. The owner of the company is in another state, in a second home when this happens. Of course, that's going to happen when he leaves town. So it just makes it just the worst possible timing to deal with it. Not to mention the stress. You're in the middle of working. It's not like he's bored with nothing to do. And now you just added this on top of it. And this could stop all of your work from progressing. You have to prioritize it. Or you might just want to shut the business down. You might not have a choice. It might shut down on you with no recovery. Or a very painful. You think you're busy now, try restarting from scratch. LRCX, Larry is now a member for 12 months. Hello, Carey, Mara, and chat. Looking forward to seeing Studio C. Yeah, we're looking forward to getting into it. It's going to be great. You'll see. Studio C, you'll see. Jose Lopez contributes $2. He says, we miss you, Carey and Mara. Well, thank you, Jose. That's very kind. And thank you for the super chat. Tom Jackson with $7.77. Thank you, Tom. And Larry Wood contributes $20 in super chat. Right on. You guys rock. David Graham with $2 in super chat. He says, time is just a measuring stick. I stopped using it. Your choice. Ray Star Man with $10 says, I just changed credit card. Let's see if it works. Looks like it works. Thank you, Ray Star Man. Thank you, David. Okay. Did I get through it all? Thank you, guys. Natalie says we can put a plaque on the wall with all the names of the people who contributed to Studio C. Yeah, but it'll be too small. It'll be like, like to do something a little bolder than that. It's not a bad idea. It's just, I'm not quite sure how I would execute that where it would be something anybody would really be able to notice. But Arnold wants to know, will Studio C be a rental or is it a keeper? It should be a keeper until Studio D. Because I'm still not in Michigan, which is the ultimate goal for me personally. And it's also possible, maybe, depending on the economy and housing, to have a Studio C and D, depending on bouncing back and forth. You know, I might not want to be in Michigan in January. I might want to be here in Phoenix, but I don't want to be here in Phoenix now, let alone through October. That would be a great time to be in Michigan. So if I could have 2 studios and be a what we call a snowbird, well, I've truly reached retirement age at that point. If I can succeed at that, this is something we have here in Phoenix. There are a lot of retired folks. They get out of that cold weather in the wintertime from whatever state they're from, and they come stay here in Arizona for the winter months. And then they're usually out of here around April, middle of April, they head back home. Many of them don't consider Arizona their home. It's kind of an escape. And some have to do it for health reasons. So I might just become one of them. It's in my future. Thomas says, I hope your AC works better until you're in Michigan. Yeah, well, anything should be better than here. So I think we'll be okay. Of course, I might have just jinxed myself saying it out loud. Let's be positive. Jared Blackmore says, I'm watching on a work break. It's 9:30 here in Wales in the UK, 17 degrees Celsius. It's another bucket list place I'd love to go. Cardiff? Yeah. All right, so the Minisforum 3-in-1 tablet. Let's talk about that. Some people, when I initially showed this off, were a little hit with sticker shock because they think it's a tablet. And the problem is what they're comparing it to in their mind is wrong. You need to compare this to a Microsoft Surface Pro. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up, go to Amazon and look at the prices. Then when I show you this in its power and performance and price, you're going to see what a bargain this is by comparison. But if you're comparing it to a $300 tablet, it's not a fair, this is way more than that. And in some ways, it's more than a Surface Pro in the sense that it can be used as a portable monitor, which I don't believe any of the other ones can. This is also the world's first tablet laptop based on an AMD processor, which is pretty darn cool. So let me just grab a cold Gatorade. And I'm going to show you the Minisforum landing page for this product so we can read about all of the features. I don't want to leave anything out. This thing is jam-packed with a lot of features. And if I just did it off the top of my head, I'd be leaving stuff out. So let me bring up their site. We have a link to this landing page in the video notes below the video if you want to click on that and get ahead or follow along with me. Let's go to my screen share here. That ought to do it. Okay. First of all, you should know I am far from the first person to review this. This was sent to me about a month ago, and I've been holding on to it. With everything else going on and all the other projects that were ahead of it, this is the first chance I've had to review this. Now, I've already taken it out of the box, obviously. This arrived in 3 different boxes, and I'll explain that in a minute. But there are other reviews online that you could certainly look at and compare. The way reviewers review things is very subjective. So I would encourage you, if you're interested to learn more about it, to look at other reviewers and their perspectives to take into consideration, which might more align with your values than the reviews I do, or the other way around. So you'll see here the V3 tablet, which does include this keyboard that disconnects magnetically, and a little stand back here, is included with 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte solid state drive. And it's already got a tempered glass screen protector. I think that's already installed. Right now, $1199. If we spec it down at 16 gigs, you're at $969. You cannot upgrade anything on this. It is glued shut. You will not be working on this or a Microsoft Surface Pro or any tablet. So be sure that you get it the way you want it. This is not a laptop. This is more similar. This is like a how can I explain this? This is like a tablet on steroids or a laptop that's convertible. Except usually a convertible laptop, the keyboard's attached and you just fold it under, leaving the laptop twice as thick. With this, you can remove the keyboard entirely, as well as the back. The back here, that's magnetic, and I'll show you that. So all that comes off. It's a 14-inch display, 2.5K, 165 hertz. It's using a Ryzen 7 8840U, so that's no slouch. This particular configuration we're looking at here on the website is 32 gigs RAM, 1 terabyte storage. It's got 4 speakers in it. It comes with a stylus. It's got Ryzen AI and something called V-Link, along with USB 4 and a dual fan cooling solution, which you're going to have on a processor that powerful. That doesn't mean it's loud or anything, but a lot of tablets may not have fans, or if they do, they have one. They talk a little bit about the Ryzen 7 8840U, which is 8 cores and 16 threads with 16 megs of tertiary cache. A maximum clock speed reaches 5.1 gigahertz. Show me a tablet that can hit 5.1 gigahertz. It's got the built-in Radeon 780M graphics that are part of the Ryzen 7 chip. And here they're talking about great for office use. It's got a Nero processing unit. That's what you want for local AI processing, a CPU and a GPU. You're going to hear a lot more about NPUs, Nero processing units. It's got something called eye contact correction. This is pretty interesting. And it's an effect to compensate for eyes looking away from the center of the camera. When you're in a Zoom call or a presentation and you're looking away from the camera, it can adjust that intelligently using the AI with the NPU to make it so they don't see that you're not paying attention. It looks like you're looking at the camera even when you aren't, including automatic framing and advanced background effects. Now, you might have played around with background effects with Zoom and other things, and it's a little, depending on your lighting and the power of your computer, it can be okay. This is far more advanced because it's using the NPU specifically to work on this. So that doesn't require a green screen or anything. It's pretty darn cool. Of course, Copilot, which requires I believe it requires an NPU. It has the Copilot key, which is right here on the keyboard, right down on that by the space bar, which is something you're going to see on new keyboards and new laptops as Microsoft is pushing Copilot. A little bit more about the cooling system here. 28-watt sustained performance. It looks like he's using, in this photograph, it looks like he's using the V3 as the main computer with a wireless keyboard, Bluetooth to it, attached to a second monitor. So even though the V3 can be a second monitor to your desktop, and I don't know, he's got 3 monitors here. And I don't know if he's got a desktop where he's using this as the V3 as a portable monitor, or if he's using the V3 and attaching 2 additional monitors to it through the USB 4 ports. This is DDR5 that's soldered in. The 1 terabyte PCIe is Gen 4, which is likely, how I'm going to guess it's soldered in. I don't know. I actually don't know. I might check YouTube to see if anybody's opened one of these, but they're, as far as I know, glued shut. So if you open it, unless you really know what you're doing, probably never going to get it back together again. But I'd be kind of curious. Regardless if it's socketed or soldered down, you're not going to be upgrading it. That's true for all tablets and Surface Pros, as far as I know. So your warranty is very important in case something goes wrong. It's a 16:10 aspect ratio on the display, up to 2560 by 1600 in resolution. 500 nits of brightness for those of you that know what that means. It includes this active pen. I don't like styluses myself, but this pen does require charging. It uses the same charger, same plug as the tablet, the laptop tablet, the 3-in-1. Or you can have the charger plugged into the tablet and the stylus plugged into the tablet and let the charger charge the tablet charge the stylus, all at the same time. Here they're showing its optional use as a secondary display to a desktop or a laptop. That's a very expensive secondary display. Given the processing power, storage, and RAM that's behind this screen, to just not be using it and only use the screen, it's not something I would buy it for, but just as an additional, hey, you can also use it for this. Something to keep in mind. It's got the keyboard attaches magnetically. You don't have to charge the keyboard, and some of these tablet keyboards need to be charged up. So if your tablet's charged and your keyboard isn't, it can make for a bad time if you're traveling. So the keyboard does not need to be charged. It's going to draw the power it needs from the tablet when it makes connection magnetically. The bracket type here, what they're referring to is this back stand. It's a little flimsy, but it's intended to be lightweight and portable. And I'll show you that here in a minute. And of course, the screen being a tablet, it has to be a touch screen. A little bit about the weight and the thickness. We're at 9.8 millimeters in thickness, 930 grams in weight. So light for a laptop, a little heavy for a tablet, on par with a Microsoft Surface Pro. That's their closest competitor. Battery life. It's equipped with a battery of 50.82 watt hours, so just under 51 watt hours. It can realize more than 8 hours of use time, providing longer standby time and reducing the number of recharges, a longer standby time, and less frequent recharging. It supports power delivery, 65 watt fast charging. Compared to traditional charging methods, power delivery is charging. It's faster and it effectively reduces charging times. On the side of the unit, we've got the two USB 4 ports and the power button. Now this power button, it's flush with this whole panel. So I have a habit of kind of reaching over and feeling for the button. And when I turned this on, I couldn't find it. I'm like, where's the power button? I had to physically look to locate it because when I run my finger along the edge to try and feel for the button, it just feels like a smooth edge. I can feel the USB 4 ports, but I cannot feel that power button. And I guess I would get used to that in time. But on the opposite side, we have a V-Link, which is a display port, supports display port in, meaning if you wanted to use this as a second monitor, this would be your input coming from another machine, a laptop or desktop. It's got a full-size SD card reader, and then we've got a volume button here that sticks out. So when I run my finger along this side, I can feel this button just like on a cell phone. Hence my confusion. Where's the power button? There's nothing on the top or bottom regarding buttons or ports. This is it. Oh, and there's also an audio jack here at the end. So just a little bit more on your specifications regarding width and length. And then there's some reviews here they've posted. That's a lot, isn't it? So let me jump back over to the chat room and see what you guys have to say so far before we demonstrate it. Don't get too far ahead of myself. I guess I should probably use this screen over here. Getting older, I think that screen's getting further and further away. Let's see. I see Larry's joined us. Larry should be blue. Oh, it looks like Mara's already taken care of. She's on it. Right on. Welcome in, Larry. There's our friend Oystein joining us from Norway. Welcome in, Oystein. Ole Peterson says Studio F will be in the Phoenix Senior Center basement. As long as we're broadcasting, I don't care. I could be coming from the sewer system. Might have some lighting issues there. Jit says that is one powerful tablet. Yeah, that's why it's not a tablet. Michael says the V3 was plugged into external monitors. It was plugged into 2, not 3. I meant to say there's 3 monitors total if it didn't come out that way. Yes, it's plugged into 2. It appears to be using the 2 USB 4 ports on the right-hand side. I completely agree with you. Yes. Thank you for the clarification. Mark Gaines says it would be better if it had a mobile SIM slot. I think you can buy those USB, can't you? And just add it through USB. I've never activated cell service on a tablet. I only use cell service on a phone. And then if I need portable internet access, I would tether my phone as a hotspot. That's how I do it. Because I don't want to pay 2 different monthly bills. I don't use it often enough to justify that. And since I'm already paying for the phone anyway, I just make sure I get a phone that has the tethering option. And so on the rare occasion when I need it, I just create a hotspot and connect anything I want to it, a laptop, tablet. Works great. Saves me money. Taco wants to know when I'm going to be driving an EV. Not anytime soon. David Graham says he tethers all the time. Well, that's how I do it. Like I said, I just try to keep expenses down. If I traveled a lot, I suppose my attitude might be different. But usually when you're traveling, you're staying at a hotel, they're going to have Wi-Fi. You're going to connect to the Wi-Fi on the tablet no differently than you would on maybe you don't want to use your data on your phone. On the other hand, using the data on the phone is way more secure if you want to do anything online involving anything private, your email, your banking, credit cards, that stuff, using a public Wi-Fi or a Wi-Fi you do not own and control, very unwise. So in that case, I could just tether, and then I have all the privacy and security. Peace of mind. That's how I do it. But if I'm just, I don't know, watching YouTube videos, things that don't really matter, scrolling through Reddit forums, I don't have any worry if anybody's snooping on me. Using hotel Wi-Fi is fine for that. Paul 1980 says, man, Minisforum isn't fooling around. That's good competition for the Microsoft Surface. Agreed. And that's why I'm delighted to show it to you. So I guess we can do that now. So this arrives in 3 different boxes. You've got your stylus and charging cable that arrive in a little box. That's here. And I've already charged all that up. Then you've got your keyboard, which is magnetic. That will also include, well, now I can't remember, but the keyboard arrives in its own box. And I'm just trying to remember if this bracket is included with the keyboard or if it's included with the tablet. I think it's with the keyboard. I think these two are together in a box, and then the tablet ships in its own box. So you're going to get 3 different boxes. Better safe than sorry. Now, if I bring this tablet up close to the camera here, you can get a better idea, a reference point of its size and its thickness compared to me. See how that power button is kind of hard to notice it. But if you're holding it, I mean, I understand why they did it. If you're holding this and your hand should hit that power button, that is something on my desk that was metal that attached to the magnet. Anyway, imagine you're holding this and you're doing your work or whatever you're doing while you're walking, or I don't know, sitting on the couch. And then you should end up holding it up here. You could accidentally hit the power button and shut it off. If you accidentally hit the, well, I guess you'd have to be holding it horizontally, wouldn't you? I don't know. If you just held it wrong and you hit the power button by mistake, that's less likely if the power button's flush. That's just not going to happen. On the other hand, if you were to hit the volume button, which is kind of sticks up a little bit like a cell phone, the worst you're going to do is accidentally raise or lower your volume. No big deal. So there is a little web camera right up there. And if I turn this on, if I see the power button and I turn that on, you'll see the power light go on, which also indicates your charging status when you're charging it. And here's our real boot time live. The camera's going to struggle a little bit with brightness, so bear with it as it's a little confused right now. It sees this as a light source. So camera's actually doing a much better job than my old cameras would have done. And we're booted. Now, if you wanted to walk around with this, you certainly can do that. It's not auto-rotating. I don't know if that's an option in Windows. I haven't turned on, but right now it's in a landscape mode. If I just wanted this to stand on its own without the keyboard, I'm just going to use the touchscreen. This magnetic bracket, I guess is what they call it, just attaches on like that. Now, I've seen some people where they pull the bottom out and they stand it up like this. But what can happen is the weight of the unit, especially if you're tapping on it, can just slide down off the magnet. And I noticed in the pictures, the way that they show it being held up, I'm being too gentle with it. They want you to really bend that down and do it like that. It's much more secure that way. This is why they have instructions, Carey. Now, if I don't want to tap on the screen, if I want to use the touchpad and the keyboard, this is just magnetic. All we have to do is get it close and it's going to grab on all by itself. You're attached. It's that easy. And now we can move around. The keyboard is backlit, so as I type, the lights come on underneath the keys or surrounding the keys. So if you're in the dark, you can see the letters that you're hitting. And didn't say what Wi-Fi it had, did it? Obviously, you're not going to have an Ethernet port on this. If you need to plug into an Ethernet cable, as with many very thin laptops, you would have to buy a Ethernet to USB-C network card. Amazon sells these things and many other electronics retailers sell them. They're not difficult to find. This one's made by Ugreen. I don't know why you would tether yourself. The whole point of this is to be portable. The whole point of this is to not have cables. But if it's somewhere sitting on a desk and for whatever reason you want that Ethernet cable, you just buy this adapter, plug it into one of your USB-C ports. That Ugreen one doesn't even need a driver. Windows recognizes it, auto loads it. You're good to go. It's just plug and play. Frank M says hello. Matt says that's a cool computer. Bajan Guy says less than 25 seconds to boot. Remember, that's a cold boot. That's not a restart. It's not like it was in standby. That is a cold, firing it up from completely off. David says, I'm thinking of getting one for Christmas. Easy Otter says, nice. David Moore says, that's a nice tablet. I kind of cringe when you guys call this a tablet. when you do that. What does Microsoft call the Surface Pro? I'm kind of curious what terminology, because it's really not a laptop and it's really not a tablet. They just call it a 2-in-1. Let me see what Google says. What is a Surface Pro? You're calling it a 2-in-1 laptop. They don't even call it a tablet. It's a 2-in-1 laptop that combines tablet portability with laptop performance. Well, that's what I said already. Well, I guess Google agrees with me. This is a 3-in-1 because unlike the Surface Pro, you can use the screen as a second monitor if you want to, but obviously not at the same time. You could pick any one of the three at any given time. You can have it as a laptop, you can have it as a tablet, or you can have it as a screen, a second screen. Okay. I hope that's not confusing. It's a laptop. It's not a tablet. When I think tablet, I think big cell phone. These are not really known for processing power and performance. Even your flagship smartphones from Apple and Samsung and Google just don't compare to a high-end CPU from Intel or AMD on a desktop or modern laptop. These are Snapdragon, Qualcomm. They're pretty weak by comparison. So this is, when you look up the specs on this and you want to compare it to something, don't compare it to a tablet, or you're going to think this is really expensive. Compare it to an equivalent equipped laptop, and then you're going to think this is a bargain. That's why it's so important to me. I'm afraid some people might think of it as an expensive tablet instead of as a cheap laptop. Ben wants to know, is it repairable or is it a sealed system? It's sealed. Every tablet you ever see in your life will be sealed. Yep. Mark wants to know if the keyboard and stand are included in the price. Yes, everything. We've got the charger, the charging cable. We have a screw that came with the stylus and the little stylus charging cable. That's all. Everything you see is what I got. Go faster stickers, a little documentation. And I think this is like a little thank you card. Yeah, you get this nice little card of appreciation. And of course, if I didn't hold that up long enough for you, you'll be able to replay this video after it airs once YouTube processes it, and you can go back to that and pause the screen. Right now, because we're live, everything's happening in real time. That's kind of the point of being live. Other questions? Can you have a keyboard on the screen? Yeah, that's a function of Windows. You can do that on your desktop right now if you want to. That's been true since Windows 95. It's called the accessibility features. Andrew says, I've noticed the 16 gig model is cheaper. Well, of course, you're going to get less. You're going to pay less. But do you think 16 gig would be sufficient for some AAA games, or should I just get the 32 gig version? Would I really need 32? Well, the problem isn't what you need today. The problem is what you need 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and how long you plan on keeping this. I don't really see this as a game playing device, not me personally. This isn't really intended for that. Not that it couldn't do that. I just don't know how well, right? It depends on the games. It also depends on the future games coming out. So I would play better safe than sorry. Since you cannot upgrade this, I would get the 32 so you don't have to worry, because that is as high as you can go. You cannot go any higher than that. So in a couple of years, if 32 is not enough for you, there was nothing more you could have done. It's not like you will have buyer's remorse. I should have got the 32 a couple of years ago when I bought this, right? If 32 is more than you need, then ignorance is bliss. You'll never know any different. But you'll also never run into that wall. And if you do run into a wall where 32 is not enough, there was no purchasing mistake on your behalf. That was how it was equipped. In 2 or 3 years, they might be equipped with 64, or who knows what the future holds. So looking for that kind of self-assurance into the future, I would just play it safe and buy the more expensive one, because if you don't, you may end up having to buy a whole nother one. So paying a couple extra $100 now versus paying $1,200 or $1,400 in 2 or 3 years, it's cheaper to pay the extra now. That's the way I see it. What do the speakers sound like? Are they good? Well, I will tell you, I've had limited experience time with this, but I'm hearing, Windows plays the welcome tune when it starts, and it's very noticeable. I don't expect this to be a Bluetooth speaker replacement. There's really no subwoofer here. I would say it's on par with the sound that most laptops have. Because you're dealing with such a thin area, your speaker depth is very limited. I think they sound very impressive for how tiny they are. I have some pretty demanding sound requirements. When I'm watching particularly a movie or I'm listening to music, the speakers on a laptop I've never heard as sufficient, ever. Or for that matter, built into a flat screen monitor. Never have I heard a set that sounds good to me. Not for that purpose. For everyday watching YouTube videos and bleeps and boops, I find it on par with everything else that has speakers in a little tiny narrow area. I'm really impressed with how much sound they can get out of a Galaxy S24, but it has no real depth or stereo separation or bass. So for certain things like watching YouTube videos, it's fine. Looking at media online, content created stuff. On the other hand, a music video kind of, I don't know, it feels a little shallow to me coming out of anything other than something with a subwoofer. But I'm a bit of a snob that way. I'm not an audiophile. I'm not really looking for perfect sound, but I would like to be able to feel it. And you're not going to feel it with any small device or a thin device like a television. So then if you Bluetooth a speaker to this, which you can do very easily, just like a laptop or your smartphone, you can hook it up to a nice Bluetooth speaker that'll knock you into the next room if you want to spend that kind of money. Yeah. So when I listen to music on my phone, I go to my television soundbar. And the reason my television is a soundbar is the TV sound is so flat and terrible. So the soundbar provides two services for me. One, when I'm watching on the television, I might even be watching YouTube on the television. I prefer it on the soundbar. When I'm playing music, I might be getting ready for a show. And as I'm prepping everything, I like to have some music in the background. I just play the music with Spotify through the phone and out to the Bluetooth speaker, and I hear it across the entire house. Sounds great. It sounds better in the room the speaker's at, but way better than the phone will ever sound. So if that's important to you, I wouldn't put too much weight into any speakers built into a thin device. I would consider an external Bluetooth speaker or headphones. Frank wants to know, does it have a 3.5 millimeter audio jack? It does, yes. Frank, if you look in the video notes, we have a link to the Minisforum product page for this that goes over pretty much every question you've asked so far. So if you take a minute and click on that link, I think it'll provide you answers to questions you haven't asked yet. Strongly encourage you to check that out. Lynn's Music says a regular phone call coming through a subwoofer sounds pretty awesome too. I don't like that at all. No. I don't mind putting calls on speakerphone because I don't like holding this to my face. 98% of the calls I take or make, I'll use the speakerphone. The only time I want to hear a phone call over a speaker is in a car. That's it. That's just my preference. Les says hello from Toronto. Welcome in, Les. Ron Sprague says hello. Larry, that question is not one we're going to answer today as we're focused on this. I do try to keep the audience focused in on what we're doing. Sometimes we do videos where it's kind of an ask me anything or what's on your mind. And if you want to ask a tech-related question, I love that. Today, if you're asking a tech-related question not related to tablets or laptops, and preferably, we want to ask about this unit right here. That's why we're here today. And feel free to leave your question in the comment section after the video, and I'm sure one of the community members will be happy to help you, or they might just help you in the chat right now where we're live. But I need to keep the show moving about this subject matter right here for today. And I appreciate you understanding. Otherwise, we're all over the map, and it gets a little bit chaotic and confusing for viewers who are like, wasn't he supposed to be talking about this? I came here to hear about this. So we don't want to do that to them. Mike Visions with a £2 super chat contribution. Thank you, Mike, joining us from the UK. Jet says, does this laptop have micro SD storage? It has a full-size SD card slot. Once again, if you click on the link in the video notes, it takes you right to the Minisforum product page, and you can see all the ports that it has. But to answer your question, it's a full-size SD card. And of course, you can get one of those little adapters that are often included for free with a micro SD. And you slide your micro SD card in the larger SD card, and then slide the SD card into a full-size slot. I love that. I absolutely love that, because that means you can use the full-size and the micro SDs. A lot of other devices in high-end like content creator laptops, like a Dell XPS, only include the micro SD, and there's no way to read the full-size SD cards without buying a USB to full-size SD card reader, which I usually have one in this drawer. It's a little confusing for me to find it because it looks like a fat flash drive, but essentially you plug it into a USB port and you plug your SD card into it. And it's just one more thing to keep in a laptop bag or to cart with you if that's something you need. But that's why I would never need that with this, since it has the full-size SD card reader on it. Davis Parsons wants to know, what is the Wi-Fi on this unit? That's what I was going to look at, and I've already forgotten. So let me take a real quick look here in the device manager on this. Let's see what it says for Wi-Fi. It's an Intel Wi-Fi 6E AX210. And of course, that's got Bluetooth on it as well. So it is Wi-Fi 6E from Intel. The AX210 is the model of Wi-Fi card. Thank you for reminding me to look at that. There you go. Some folks in the chat are already on top of it. Chris Garrett says, I always plan to have an internal CD DVD burner on my desktop. Yes, and some people insist on having a VCR or a DVD player. You are one of the few last standing. The good news is you can always buy an external DVD, CD, reader, writer from Amazon that plugs into a USB port. It's really no big deal anymore. And the beauty of that is it's not permanently attached. So if you need to use it on another computer or it breaks, you don't take the whole computer in for service for a very expensive repair. You simply go on Amazon, buy another one for like 30 bucks for a DVD, plug it in and you're done. Very easy, very convenient. And people that do insist on CD and DVD readers these days very rarely ever use them, maybe a couple times a year for most people. So with that infrequency, it's no big deal to just plug it in when you need it, unplug it. It's like having an external backup drive. You don't want that installed internally either. So having these devices available through USB and having the 3 USB ports on here makes it quite versatile for that. David Graham wants to know, does it have a Type-C USB? That's all it has, 3 of them. 3 USB Type-C ports. It doesn't have any Type-A ports on it. So if you have like a Type-A flash drive, you'll need to get a little adapter to adapt it down, but it's fully compatible. Matt said he uses a CD reader to install his printer drivers. Well, that's great if you live in 1993, Matt, but the printer drivers on that CD are so out of date and insecure and unreliable. You're just shooting yourself in the foot with a gun. You should just turn the gun in. You're just hurting yourself. If that's how you do it, don't let me get in your way. But we have long since moved on to downloading the newest drivers online in order to get the latest features in security and reliability from those drivers. Software's never done. So if you're being held back 20, 30 years in time because you're not moving forward, you're causing more harm to yourself and more inconvenience to yourself that we've all left behind a long, long time ago. That's your choice. And you certainly can continue to do it the old-fashioned way. It seems a way harder and more complicated to, everything is more or less gotten a lot easier, You don't have to vacuum your floors by hand anymore. You can get a Roomba that does it for you. Same with mopping. There's so much automation. There's so much, people that would have an alarm system in their house. Why pay that monthly fee and have to enter a code when you can set up Wi-Fi cameras that run off batteries with no cabling for less than the cost of monthly monitoring and have it alert you to your phone immediately and react yourself than hoping a third-party company is going to do it for you. And then they want to come in and keep upgrading your equipment. And it's very expensive and it's very old-fashioned. So for me, being able to live in the present, taking advantage of modern technology has made my life so much easier. I mean, you still might lift your garage door up and down for all I know. And for me, just having a garage door opener isn't enough. I want to be able to know if that garage door is open or closed at any time on my phone and be alerted anytime it opens or closes on my phone. I've driven away thinking to myself, did I close the garage door? For the added cost of putting it on Wi-Fi? Wish I could have had that 20 years ago. Where's this been all my life? You know how many times I've turned the car around to check? I'm just doing it to myself. So it's easy to not miss something you've never had. So if you continue to do things an old-fashioned way, it's because you don't realize there's a better way. So you don't know any better. So you're like, oh, well, this is great. I don't see any problem with it. Right. Of course you don't. If you never had it, how can you miss it? But anyway, moving on. Chris Garrett says, and so this is the problem I have with the internet, and nothing against Chris, but what you're doing right now in your comments is so frustrating to me because you're sharing a very unique experience where you're the problem, in my opinion, and you're suggesting everybody has the problem and the problem isn't you. So let me explain. And I just want to, I don't want to hold you up to embarrass or humiliate you. I want to point out what the perspective is between you and I and how it's different. From your opinion, you've downloaded software online and never had it work right because you're not doing it right. Everybody else does it that way. The vast majority, accurately, does it this way and does not have a problem. So you're doing something differently. And rather than stop yourself and say, how is this possible? Okay, this is what I would do if I were you. How is this possible? HP has been in business all these years. And out of just sheer guessing, how many of these printers have they sold? The one you bought? Probably more than one, probably into the hundreds of thousands or millions. If this was a real problem that other people had, why wouldn't I hear about it? So I must be doing something wrong. It must be me. Let me do a little research and educate myself because maybe I'm doing something an old-fashioned way and that doesn't work. You have to learn the new way. Once you adapt to that, then you realize the problem was never the driver, the downloaded driver. It was your interpretation and misunderstanding of how to apply it. Now, in all fairness, it shouldn't be that way. Software should accommodate the user, but we're not there yet. You still, in some cases, have to be a little technical and accommodate what the driver wants, or the software itself. You have to conform to what it requires. Good software should conform to what the end user requires. And AI is going to help get us to that, but we're not there yet. So, do what works for you if what you're doing is working, but please don't suggest that you're speaking on behalf of anybody else or that anybody else has these problems, because the vast majority do not. You're representing a very tiny minority and you're being very vocal about it, which if somebody doesn't know any better, might believe from your confidence that you're actually correct and speaking on behalf of everybody and everybody has these problems. I've been in this industry professionally over 30 years. This is not my experience. I've installed countless drivers for printers. I don't know what you're talking about. From Xerox to HP, Canon, and Epson. It just doesn't make any sense that the driver doesn't work. It's just not possible. You're doing something wrong. So if you're going to dig your heels in and insist you're not doing anything wrong and the problem is with the drivers, then we can't continue the discussion any further. There's a reason why you're the only one talking about it. Nobody else is in the chat right now. And if you can't look in the mirror and realize how you can solve this, but you refuse to, I can't help you. So my intention is to help. But if somebody just absolutely refuses, they don't think they need to learn anything, well, there's nothing to teach. So we'll move on. We'll move on. A lot of things have to do with attitude. It's not about capability. It's not about pride or ego. It's about having the right attitude and being open-minded and being willing to accept new ideas and concepts to evaluate rather than shut them down before you've even, followed the suggestions or provided me with a real world example and say, well, here's a driver that won't install. Connect to me remotely and show me what I'm doing wrong. I'd be happy to. So again, it's not to put anybody down. I'm trying to help. And I want people to be self-reliant as much as possible. Get back control of your computer. And the longer people have been doing this, the less likely they're going to learn something new. In my experience, having 30 years of experience in this business hurts most people because they still want to do things the old way. Somebody who's new and doesn't know any better is much easier to teach. Badgerland Dan joins us and says, hello, welcome in, Badgerland Dan. Michael Everall says it took a class action lawsuit before HP removed a firmware update that stopped folks buying and selling third-party ink cartridges. I don't know what that has to do with drivers, but yeah, that's true. I mean, completely unrelated, but that is true. David Graham said there was a Windows bug that messed up printers for a time, but it fixed now. It only messed up certain printers, and it was an update. It did not affect all printers, and it has since been addressed. So again, I don't know why we're talking about that. It's kind of irrelevant. I mean, how far back do we want to go? Well, back in '95, there was a driver update that didn't work right for my Voodoo 3DFX graphics card, but they got it sorted. Nicholas says hello from Gilroy, California. Does it always smell like garlic? Drive through Gilroy sometime and you'll understand. Andy Kane said, I'm still learning new tech and I really enjoy it. As am I. I'm always surprised at what I don't know. I'm like, holy cow, how long has this been a thing? And I kind of beat myself up over it for not, I can't be ahead of everybody on everything regarding tech. I expect myself to, but there's so much with going on with Wi-Fi and RAM standards and CPUs from Intel and AMD and now Qualcomm and updates to Windows and updates to storage devices and Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5 and video cards. It just really has gotten very, very overwhelming to try and stay on top of all of it. And those are just the things off the top of my head. There's so much more. Heck, we were talking about speakers earlier. The quality coming out of these little speakers is incredible. If you'd go back to 1985 and listen to a speaker on a portable cassette player, this is way better, way smaller, sounds so much better, but still nothing comparable to a good Bluetooth speaker. And even Bluetooth speakers, I turned my nose up at those the first few years. How can that be better than floor standing speakers with an amplifier? It's, depending on the Bluetooth speaker, in some cases better than floor standing speakers with an amplifier. How can that be? The speaker technology, the sound technology, it's all just keeps advancing. And so what we knew that was good or what we knew that was right, this technology is relentless. And if you don't stay on top of it, you will be left behind. Nobody's coming to get you. And if you want to be there, be there. But most of us don't. Most of us want to keep life simple as possible and have conveniences. So things like Internet of Things, whether it's a garage door opener, a thermostat, cameras to secure your property and alert you, a Ring doorbell to alert you somebody's at your door, even when you're not home, and you can talk to them no matter where you are in the world. What a amazing thing. I mean, to have that in 1975 would have been pretty cool. Ron Sprague mentions the ultra thin patch cables. Oh, I love those. That's a great example. And ultra thin HDMI cables because they're very lightweight, they're very flexible, they don't kink up and they don't try to knot themselves the way stiffer cables will. I love my thin, super thin Ethernet cables. Now, granted, they're not the most durable cables, but they're so cheap. Who cares? You know, most people are going to plug them in and not move them anyway. I'm in an unusual situation in that I'm constantly moving things and plugging and unplugging things. And so about every 5 or 6 months, I have to replace the Ethernet cable and the HDMI cable. I'll break where it connects, where the wire goes to the connector, I'll break that. And sometimes with the Ethernet cables, I'm walking on them, or I might, I don't know, set a computer on them. And what I'll end up doing is I'll tear the outer sheath, and then the wires are exposed. And then the next thing I'm going to tear are the wires. So if I notice the wires being exposed through the sleeve, that cable's got to go. If I wait too long, I'm going to have connection problems, and I got to figure out why. So the cable that powers the streamer, that gets replaced about every 8 months. It's in a constant traffic area. It gets stepped on constantly. Yeah, but they're so inexpensive. Now, if I ran a thicker cable, it wouldn't have that issue, but it'd also be more of a tripping hazard, and it would be heavier and less flexible. Now, does anybody have any other questions about the Minisforum V3 here? Otherwise, we might just wrap it up for today. My thanks to the folks at Minisforum for their generosity in sending this to us in exchange for review, no strings attached. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the hands of Marilena and let her use it on a regular basis, and then give us some feedback after a while about things she likes or dislikes about it from a real user, really depending on it and using it. The problem with most YouTube reviews, in my opinion, is that people only have something maybe a week, maybe less. And they're expected to derive an opinion of value, to find everything they like and dislike about it. In fact, the folks over at Hot Hardware just posted their review today on this. And if we go take a look, and that link is also in the video notes, kind of curious, what was their conclusion? Remember, everybody is going to do reviews based on their own values, what's important to them, what they're measuring versus what I'm measuring. Nobody's really wrong. It's just some values may align better to your own from one creator than to another, right? Just like a movie critic. So we've got sort of a pro and con here. And I'm going to have to move up closer to the monitor to read it. Okay, what they like about it: current AMD mobile processor, all around good performance, tablet quality, build quality, it seems solid. It's got an excellent screen with touch and a handy monitor mode, right? That's that ability to use it as a third monitor. They don't like the quality of the kickstand or the type of kickstand. The side-mounted buttons, they lack any tactility. I don't know how often you're going to be pushing the volume up, the volume down, or the power. Those are the only 3 buttons. They think the price is, at non-promotional. All right, so it's always on promotion. But they think it's a price premium when it's not on promotion. The supplied charger, they say, gets hot. Well, I guess it depends how hot. I haven't noticed it. And they said some software glitches, which I'm assuming they're going to detail further down in the review. I don't know what their conclusion is on this, but it may be worth you guys checking out if you're interested in learning more. The camera's a 2-megapixel Windows Hello webcam, and it's got a rear camera that's a 5-megapixel autofocus. So just like a smartphone or mini tablets, it has 2 cameras, one facing the screen and one opposite of the screen. Wi-Fi 6E. Oh, the ports are Thunderbolt. I didn't realize that. That's great if you want really fast data transfer rates. Now this says it's got a micro SDXC card reader, but that's not micro, that's full size. So I don't know if that's a mistake. Oh, the volume rocker will adjust the brightness in monitor mode. I didn't realize that either. And it's Windows 11 Pro that it comes with, 64-bit with a year warranty. So let's scroll all the way to the bottom. Let's just get to the conclusion. So all these benchmarking of the monitor, the storage, all of that is here if you want to go through that. We don't have time to go through it all today. Battery and thermal performance, they're very thorough on this. I do like going to Hot Hardware for tech news and reviews. Okay, conclusions and takeaways. Here's what I want to see. Get to the meat of the matter. Minisforum did a commendable job with the V3 3-in-1 tablet. It's hard to fault the choice of internal components and the tablet build quality. Its quality feel and great touchscreen. The 3-in-1's portable monitor could be quite handy for some users that want a companion display for a DisplayPort Alt compatible phone. Oh, that's true. You could hook a phone to it. I didn't even think of that. Or a Nintendo Switch. I didn't think of that either. While the device itself is nice, its accessories could be improved. Our biggest gripe has to do with the magnetic kickstand. It feels like an afterthought bolt-on. It doesn't work great. The keyboard cover isn't great either. The custom detachable keyboard isn't as refined as Microsoft's equivalent accessories, but it does the job. It has useful shortcut keys and Copilot key, and it's bundled for free, at least for now. A lack of tactility provided by the tablets and stylus controls seems something of an oversight as well. And we also experienced a couple of bugs within the included software as mentioned previously, which we skipped over. So I don't know what that is all about. Scroll. Is that it? No, there's a little more. All of that said, the Minisforum V3 is still an interesting proposition. It performed very well considering its thin and light form factor, thanks to the powerful AMD Ryzen 7 processor with Radeon graphics powering the device. Though it's not designed for gaming, the Minisforum V3 performed roughly on par with an Asus ROG Ally, but with a larger 14-inch screen. The machine is essentially as fast as some of today's best in thin and light laptops and competitive with the recent wave of portable PC-based gaming devices, with the added benefit of portable monitor functionality built in. Is it for everyone? No, but it's an interesting device that could fill the needs of a wide array of consumers. In addition to the original 32 gig RAM and 1 terabyte model we tested, priced currently at $11.99 directly from Minisforum, they also have added a 16 gig 1 terabyte model at $9.69 to its lineup. Both are currently being offered with the stand, the type cover, the stylus, and a tempered glass screen protector included. Though we're not quite sure how long that promo will run, those prices are competitive considering the bundle and performance of the Minisforum V3. If you're considering a convertible tablet like the Minisforum V3, this device is worth looking into. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's a good review. I tend to agree with everything they said from what I read out loud. I should probably read the whole article because I don't know what the software issues were they're referring to. With my experience, I haven't noticed any, but I might not have been doing what they're doing. Fred C. Dobbs contributes $10 in Super Chat. Says, it's looking like I might become a 2 Minisforum owner. I have the UM790 Pro, and it's fantastic. Well, thank you for the feedback, Fred. I'm always interested to hear from people who actually own one of whatever it is we're reviewing or from the same manufacturer, a different product, to tell us about your real life experience, not what somebody else said or what you read online. I'm not interested in any of that conjecture and gossip. I like to hear directly from people with experience. That's so much more valuable than conjecture. So good to know. Whether it's good news or bad news, it's real news. It's a real experience you're sharing with us. I appreciate that. And anybody else who's thoughtful enough to share their experience with a similar product or from a same manufacturer. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be bad. It just has to be yours, not someone else's. I don't need you to talk on behalf of somebody else. I can go look at that myself. I don't even know if that other person is real or has any clue what they're doing. So their opinion means nothing to me. When I hear from a real person with real experience, that's valuable and I appreciate it. It's always welcome to hear that from any of our community regarding their experience with on par with what we're talking about in a video. Charlie Beamer with a $2 super chat contribution. Thank you, Charlie. Gregory Howard just renewed his membership, now a member for 9 months. He says hello. Thank you, Gregory. Good to see you, my friend. Rydia wants to know if I still recommend Malwarebytes Premium, and can you transfer the license to a new PC? I don't know. I'm not a representative of Malwarebytes. I am not their support. Do I recommend it? I do, but with regards to moving licenses or any of that, you would have to talk to some representative. I'm sure if you email, they have an email address where you can ask pre-sales questions. Better to hear that directly from them than literally anybody else online, because when you hear it from them, you can hold them to what they said if it doesn't turn out to be true. If anybody online gives you false information, there is no liability, there's no accountability, and there's no responsibility that they owe to you to be right. So if it's important to you and it matters a lot to you, I would contact the manufacturer directly with that question to make sure you're getting the correct answer. But yes, I still recommend Malwarebytes Premium. That is the only antivirus I have recommended for about 5 or 6 or 7 years now. I found nothing better, and it works with Windows Defender, so the Malwarebytes can find things Windows Defender won't. So they work very well together. And of course, the Windows antivirus, Windows Defender, whatever Microsoft has changed its name to, is quite adequate just as an antivirus, but doesn't do much for malware or potentially unwanted programs. Frank Jimmy says, what happened to your Millennium Falcon Bluetooth speaker? Remember that? Do I remember it? It's right here. It's a little dusty. Ignore the dust. Yeah. Right there. See, I can answer some of these questions. Paul O'Brien says, hello. Welcome in, Paul. Frank Jimmy says you can transfer Malwarebytes license to a new PC. You have to deactivate the license on the old PC before you can activate a new one. I don't know if that's true of all Malwarebytes licenses. That's the other thing to consider. They have licenses for pro and licenses for consumer. Maybe it works equally among them all. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. That's the honest answer. James Bond wants to know if Avast is any good nowadays. Once again, I only recommend Malwarebytes Premium. I do not recommend any free antivirus, nor have I ever. If you don't want to take your security seriously, go with a free one. That's up to you. I would never put my business reputation and success or failure of my business in the hands of a free piece of software. Never going to happen. So if I wouldn't use it and I wouldn't recommend it in my life and in my business, I'm not going to recommend it to you. So if you didn't hear me say anything else about any other company, I don't recommend them. If you want to use them, I'm not telling you not to. I'm simply answering your question. All right, guys, we've got just a few minutes left. If you have any final questions, in particular about tablets or 2-in-1 or 3-in-1 laptops, again, the link for this unit, the Minisforum landing page for this, is in our video notes below the video, as is that hot hardware review that was just published today, coincidentally, if you want to see what they have to say. Their review is going to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more in-depth with benchmarks, if that's important to you. This just went to sleep on me to save the battery, apparently. There we go. And I definitely would not turn the power saving features off. I want this to go to sleep because it's on a battery. So if I haven't been using it for a little while, I definitely want it to sleep to save that battery life. On a desktop, you'll notice I'll set it to like 3 hours or never because it's plugged in. What do I care? So that's why I do that, in case you're wondering. James Bond wants to know, do you think it's a good idea to buy laptops today, or should we wait for the ARM Snapdragon laptops to come out? I mean, should you have your dinner right now, or should you wait and have dinner later? This is not a question I can answer for you. If you wait for something better, there's always something better. After the Snapdragon laptops come out, there'll be something after that. And after that comes out, there'll be something after that. At some point, you will need to pull the trigger or just go without your whole life. How long do you think you've got left in life? Every minute that passes is 1 minute you have left. If you want to buy something and enjoy it today, this is what's available today. If you want to wait and see if what's out tomorrow, if you assume you've got that time and you don't need it right away, there is an advantage to paying what could be more to have it today. This is why so many people use credit cards that charge crazy interest. If you want to wait for something better tomorrow, I guarantee there's always something better tomorrow, and it will be that way for the rest of your entire life. At some point, you will need to say, I need this now, and this is what's available now. And you accept that whatever it is, at whatever price, was what you deemed to be the best value to meet your needs at that time. And you're benefiting from it because you have it now. If you wait, you can't use it. You don't have it to use it. So you're going to have to make that choice. There'll always be something better coming out soon. For the rest of your life, it's not going to change. Every year they come out with new models of cars that have features the other year model of cars didn't have. New technology, mapping, self-driving. It's too much to list. Snapdragon's marketing company has been very aggressive as a hype machine. And I've seen this too many times in my career with Intel Optane, all the hype, and then what a disappointment. All the hype about Rambus, again, Intel, what a disappointment. It was like, oh, we can't wait for this to come out. They lied to us. This is what marketing companies do. They lie, they exaggerate, they embellish. And then when you call them on it, when the product comes out and it doesn't match what they say, no, we said it has this potential. You didn't read what we said carefully enough. They've always got an escape. It's written in such a way to promote and create hype. That's what they're paid for. This is not a charity telling you what they think is in your best interest for value. This is a business trying to convince you to buy their product. So until I actually see a review, a real review of the new ARM processor with Windows and how it really compares or the way that I use a laptop, like in content creation, I have no interest in anything the marketing company says. To me, that's just noise, hyperbole. It's completely useless to me. The only benefit that I get from that is knowing this product is going to come out. That's it. Anything this product claims to be capable of doing or comparing to some other product, I need to see that with my own eyes. Because for all I know, that's a fixed result, or there's something unfair in the comparison between the two machines they're comparing that they did not fully disclose or disclosed it in fine print. You know, Tesla does this too. When you look at the results of things like they're testing racing a Porsche against a Cybertruck that is towing a Porsche on a flatbed behind it, and the Cybertruck wins. Do you think they just filmed that once? Or do you think some thought went into that and how to get the end result they wanted to get? This is what marketing companies do. Please don't believe any of the marketing. How many movie trailers do you need to watch only to go see the movie and it's terrible when the trailer made it look amazing? How many times are you going to accept being lied to and believe it? That's up to you. So I'm very skeptical in this industry as long as I've been, and I've heard enough nonsense from marketing companies. Get me the product and show it to me. What I think is very interesting with regards to the ARM processor, PC World had a unit. Gordon had the unit, the laptop with the ARM processor, but was not allowed to test it. That makes me very suspicious. Why would he not be allowed to test it? There's something going on there, and it makes me very, very skeptical that they're hiding something. You can show it, just don't turn it on. If I was Gordon, I'd have said, I'm not showing this. But for all I know, they're a paid sponsor. You don't have to worry about that here. And no dig against Gordon. I think Gordon's great. But I'm surprised he went along with that. Knowing Gordon like I do, I didn't expect that. Frank M says, once you buy a new computer, it's obsolete. You know, that was true in the 80s and in the 90s, because you'd go from a 286 to relatively soon to a 386 to a 486, a 486 DX2, then to a Pentium. And these were major, major upgrades. Today, the upgrades are very minor, maybe a 10% difference in performance. You could easily go 5 years on a new computer, and it still wouldn't be obsolete, but it might benefit. You know, you might see a benefit. If you're getting a 10% increase every year after 5 years, that could be a pretty significant difference going from a 5-year-old PC to a new one. But going from a 5-year-old PC, going from a brand new PC to going from a year-old PC to a brand new one, you may not notice any difference at all. 10% is just too minor. So I don't believe PCs are obsolete like they used to be as quickly. And I still see a lot of people running their computers 8 years or longer today, which you really could not have done in the 286, 386, and 486 days. You would not have been able to run modern Windows on it. Now things have kind of leveled off. So that whole obsolete thing, it's just not true anymore, in my opinion. Thank you again to our friend Peter Laycock, of course, Frankie B. and Oystein for all of their support. All of the members and everybody who's contributed a super chat today. It means a lot to me that you guys are helping out so that we don't have to rely on corporations to pay us to tell you things they want us to say. I don't want to be that guy. We have enough content creators already doing that. We don't need to add to that. I'd rather not do a video at all than be told what I have to say or when I have to say it. When I do say things about Acronis or RoboForm or VIP CDK deals, it's because I mean it. regardless of whether or not they support the channel. I use their products, and I've been hyping them for years before they supported the channel. So just bear that in mind, and you don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but the history of videos is there if you want to take the time to verify what I'm telling you. I'll check email real quick before we're done here today. Our friend Peter apparently has also sent a generous contribution. I don't see it on my side, but I want to say that Peter's generosity is unbelievable. Still looking for some recommendations. I really would like to name Studio C after him. I just don't know what to call it. Maybe Buster has his own recommendation. Maybe we should ask him directly. But that generosity and support is unbelievable. Also, again, Frankie B and Oisting and numerous others, countless others who I'm embarrassed to say aren't off the top of my head, but I thank each and every one of you. And for those of you joining us in the chat, participating, we appreciate you being here and being a part of the show. We hope you'll come back regularly and be a part of this amazing community. And again, all the members and all the moderators, we appreciate you so much. I can't say it enough. I think, oh, and Mara, of course, Mara, for all the work she's doing administrating all of the things that have to be done on the YouTube channel, from the thumbnails, the video descriptions, the links, communicating with our supporters. It's really removed a burden, as well as being there at Studio C to oversee everything and make sure that I don't have to be there at all times, because I'm still breaking down Studio B. So it's incredibly helpful to be able to have somebody help share the load along with you guys as well. So that's why really want to express my gratitude for everybody for even just being a part of the community. Makes it all worthwhile. It's the reason why we're doing it. It's a lot of work. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you again to our folks friends at Minisforum for sending this unit. As I mentioned, we're going to put it in real world use in Mara's hands and see what she likes or dislikes about it in real practical sense. And we'll report back on it here, maybe at Studio C, just to give it enough time. So in the meantime, I will see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.